Welcome to my channel Limelight Leaks. Please share and subscribe and hit the bell icon for new updates. Before computers and phones, before famous rich people like Bezos or Musk, there was Henry Ford. His name is really important in history. He didn't make the first car, but he changed everything about how cars were made. He created the assembly line, paid workers $5 a day, and made lots of cars really fast. He made cars cheap enough for regular people to buy. He made it so workers could earn good money. He helped America move around. Ford's Model T car wasn't just any car. It was like a revolution on wheels. It was a car that regular working people could finally buy, drive, and feel proud of. And because of this, he didn't just change how cars were made. He changed the whole country. Families living in the country could visit cities. Small towns became bigger suburbs. The middle class started. Because of cars with four wheels? Henry Ford was seen as a genius, a hero, a powerful person who took messy factories and made them work perfectly. Factory workers had to follow his rules. Workers had to meet his standards. Presidents said nice things about him. Newspapers wrote great stories about him. But smart people sometimes create big problems, because the power Ford had wasn't just about metal and machines. He started controlling more than just factories. He started controlling people's lives, their daily routines, what they believed, and how they acted. If you worked for Ford Motor Company, your paycheck didn't come for free. It came with rules, things you had to do, people watching you, and you had to obey. The same brain that made factories work better also wanted to control how people should. Heck. And while schoolbooks love to talk about the cars, they skip what happened next. Because behind all the progress, Henry Ford wasn't just building cars. He was building something much more dangerous and much more lasting. Henry Ford didn't just build cars. He built a way people should live. If you worked for him, his control didn't stop when you left the factory. His power reached into your home, your habits, what you believed. In 1914, he made news by saying he would pay workers $5 a day, which was more than twice what most people made. But there was a catch. To earn it, workers had to let Ford's special department watch their personal lives. This was like having spies check on every part of their private lives. People came to workers' homes without warning. They checked if homes were clean, if people drank alcohol, even how kids were being raised. People from other countries had to become American quickly. No speaking their old language, no keeping old traditions. English classes were required. Ford wanted workers who obeyed, didn't drink, and acted like Americans. If he didn't fit what he wanted, you could lose your job or get a worse one. Now, this wasn't just a company being mean. It was trying to control society. Ford also built company towns, whole communities where he controlled the houses, food stores, entertainment, and even the churches. In places like Fordlandia, his failed rubber farm in the Amazon jungle, he tried to build a perfect industrial town in the forest, but it failed because people fought back and rebelled. To Ford, being efficient wasn't just about machines, it was about people. He believed society, like a factory, should work smoothly with no problems or mistakes. And that belief, that obsession with order and everyone being the same, would soon turn into something even darker. Because while he was controlling his workers, in America, he was getting ready to publish something that would spread poison in minds across the world. In 1919, Henry Ford bought a failing weekly newspaper in Michigan called the Dearborn Independent. On the surface, it looked like a hobby project, another way for Ford to talk directly to people. But behind its simple front page, the paper became a way to spread something much more evil. Hatred. Starting in 1920, the Independent began printing a series of articles that hated Jewish people, called The International Jew. It's the world's problem. Over 90 articles ran for 2 years, filled with lies, false accusations, and terrible stereotypes. Ford claimed Jewish people controlled world money, controlled the media, and threatened true American values. It wasn't hidden, it wasn't hinted at. It was printed in black and white and given out through Ford car dealerships across the country. The reach was huge. Ford's name made the publication instantly believable. Thousands of readers believed every word simply because it came from the man who built the Model T. The articles were later put into booklets, translated into different languages, and sent around the world. When asked why he published them, Ford said, The only thing I want to say about the protocols is that they fit with what is happening. He was talking about the famous protocols of the Elders of Zion, a proven fake document used to spread hate against Jewish people. Ford wasn't just repeating hate, he was making it louder. That loudness would travel far beyond America, because across the Atlantic Ocean, a young man with a mustache was listening, while Henry Ford's words were poisoning American thoughts. They were also crossing oceans. In Germany, the hate-filled booklets from the Dearborn Independent were translated and spread by extremists. Ford's name became a symbol not just of industrial success, but of thinking the same way. One reader especially took notice: Adolf Hitler. In 1925, Hitler published Mein Kampf, his political book and plan for Nazi ideas. In it, he made a shocking statement. Among all world-famous people, only one American was mentioned by name: Henry Ford. Hitler called him a great man. It wasn't just a quick comment, it was praise based on admiration. Hitler saw Ford as a pioneer, not only of car making, but of cultural cleaning. Nazi newspapers and propaganda outlets reprinted sections of the International Jew. Ford's name was important in Nazi circles long before war broke out. In 1931, a Detroit newspaper reporter asked Hitler about Ford. His response: "I think of Henry Ford as my inspiration." Ford later said he wasn't responsible for how his writings were used, but the damage was done. His ideas had already found new life in a government built on hate, violence, and mass murder. This wasn't just influence, it was helping through ideas. And Ford's connection to Nazi Germany wouldn't end with admiration. It would soon become official in front of cameras under a Nazi flag. In July 1938, Henry Ford received a medal. Not from the US government, not from a business group, but from Nazi Germany. The award was called the Grand Cross of the German Eagle, the highest honor the Nazi government could give to a foreigner. Ford wasn't just getting a plaque. He was accepting recognition from Adolf Hitler's inner circle at a time when Germany was already hurting Jewish people, building up its military, and threatening world peace. Photos from the ceremony showed German diplomats giving the medal on Ford's 75th birthday. It was delivered in Dearborn. American flags stood beside Nazi flags. Nazi representatives smiled as Ford accepted it, calm, composed, without saying anything against it. Ford later claimed he had no idea what the medal meant. His supporters said it was just a diplomatic gesture, but the truth is hard to deny. Hitler admired Ford. Nazi propaganda used Ford's writings. Ford Motor Company's German branch, Ford Work, kept working deep into World War II. And while Ford never visited Germany during the war years, his name stayed influential. It appeared in Nazi speeches, news films, and literature. One Nazi leader reportedly said, "We look to Ford as a symbol of true American values." The man who built the Model T had become a tool for the Nazi government. He never gave back the medal, never officially condemned Hitler, and even as war broke out, Ford's past words and actions stayed uncorrected. The line between businessman and icon had blurred. And now it was moving towards something far darker. While Ford was getting medals from fascists overseas, his empire at home was becoming something just as scary. His workers weren't celebrating. They were fighting to survive in the 1920s and 30s. Working conditions inside Ford plants were brutal. Exhausting hours, dangerous machinery, nearly impossible work goals. But what truly set Ford apart was how ruthlessly he crushed disagreement. He didn't just oppose unions. He went to war against them. Ford's secret weapon, a man named Harry Bennett, head of the Ford Service Department. Officially, it was security. In reality, it was a private army packed with ex-boxers, thugs, and ex-criminals hand-picked for loyalty and brutality. They spied on workers, followed organizers home, beat employees in the parking lot. Inside the plant, fear kept the machines running. Outside, the message was clear: challenge the system and you'll be crushed. Then came May 26, 1937, the day it all exploded. Union organizers from the UAW gathered at the River Rouge plant. They weren't blocking the gates, they simply handed out flyers. But as photographers clicked their cameras, Bennett's men attacked. The beating was savage. Men were bloodied, bones broken. One was thrown down concrete stairs, and it was all caught on camera. The press called it the Battle of the Overpass. The images made national news. Ford denied everything, but America saw the truth. He wasn't just fighting unions. He was fighting the very idea of worker rights. The world was starting to realize beneath the shine of the Model T was blood on the factory floor. The River Rouge plant was Henry Ford's masterpiece, a 5-story industrial giant stretching over a mile long. Raw materials came in one end. Iron ore, rubber, glass, and fully built cars came out the other. And it was the first fully integrated factory in the world. Okay, marvel of production, a monument to Ford's genius. But for the workers inside, it was something else entirely. The noise was deafening. Machines roared like thunder. The heat was unbearable. Men collapsed at their workstations. Others lost fingers, eyes, or worse. Work goals were punishing and always getting higher. Bosses patrolled like prison guards. There were no unions. No protections, no safety net. And if you were black, things were even worse. Ford publicly bragged about hiring African Americans. But inside River Rouge, they were placed in the most dangerous jobs. Blast furnaces, foundries, paint rooms. They earned less, faced more abuse, and had zero chance of promotion. This wasn't a factory. It was a system of control. Racial divisions were used to keep workers from uniting. Fear replaced trust. And Harry Bennett's men made sure that anyone who resisted was silenced. To the public, River Rouge was a triumph of industry. But to those who lived it, it was a fortress of exploitation, a place where progress came at the cost of dignity. And no one, not the press, not the government, not even Ford's biggest fans could ignore the cracks forever, because beneath the polished chrome and roaring engines was a legacy built on silence, steel, and suffering. Despite the violence, the propaganda, and the Nazi metal, Henry Ford's public image stayed mostly untarnished. He was still celebrated in headlines, still praised. As a self-made American hero, politicians wanted his support. Business schools quoted his principles, and the public, many of whom owed their jobs to the cars he built, held on to the myth. Even as the Dearborn Independent continued pushing hate into American homes, Ford's reputation as an innovator overshadowed. For years, he faced almost no serious backlash. His wealth protected him, his fame kept him safe. And the media, amazed by industry and patriotism, rarely asked hard questions. It wasn't until 1927, after years of pressure, lawsuits, and growing condemnation, that Ford finally shut down the newspaper. In a carefully worded statement, he claimed he didn't know about the content and apologized, but never took real responsibility. By then, the damage had already been done. The International Jew had been reprinted worldwide. Its ideas had been planted across continents. Closing the paper didn't stop the spread, it just stopped the source. But America was ready to forgive. The Depression had begun. Jobs were disappearing. At Ford's factories, for all their flaws, still offered work. The country needed a symbol of progress, and no one was ready to tear down the man who gave it to them. So, the headlines moved on, and the darkness stayed buried beneath the roar of the assembly line. Like it today. Henry Ford's name still appears in classrooms, museums, documentaries, but most of what we learn about him is carefully chosen. The Model T, the assembly line, the $5 workday, a genius, a patriot, an icon. But the rest, it's edited out quietly, strategically. Textbooks rarely mention the Dearborn Independent. Museums gloss over the Nazi metal. Tour guides at the Henry Ford Museum talk about innovation, but skip the Battle of the Overpass, the River Rouge brutality, the labor spies, the anti-Semitic pamphlets distributed through dealerships, even Ford Motor Company's World War II involvement in Nazi Germany is treated as a footnote, if it's mentioned at all. It's not that the facts aren't known, they are. Historians have documented them extensively. Photos exist. Quotes are verified. Legal records are available. But history has a filter. And that filter tends to favor the legacy over the truth. Because Henry Ford doesn't just represent a man, he represents progress. Industry, the American dream. To confront his darkness means questioning the very foundation of modern capitalism. So instead, the world built a cleaner version. One you can hang in a museum, one you can name a highway after, one that fits neatly into a lesson plan without uncomfortable questions, but the truth was never erased, just ignored. So how do we remember Henry Ford? As a man who revolutionized the modern world, or as someone who used that power to spread hate, crush workers, and get cozy with fascists? The truth is, it's both. Ford changed the course of history. He made cars accessible. He redefined manufacturing. He helped birth the middle class. His innovations reshaped cities, economies, and culture. Without him, the 20th century would look very different. Alongside that legacy sits another. A man who believed in social engineering, who published bigotry under his own name, who refused to return a Nazi medal, who built factories that ran on fear, pain, and silence, who saw control, not compassion, as the path to progress. And that's what makes his story so haunting, because history loves heroes, it loves invention, but it struggles with contradiction, with complexity, with the idea that someone can be both a pioneer and a problem, a genius and a threat. But that's the truth of Henry Ford. He didn't just build machines, he built a myth. And that myth still rides alongside every car that bears his name. Because legacy isn't just about what you create, it's about what you leave behind. When the engine stops,